So this is part two, continued. From part one we were talking about the mirror, and the mirror is a great piece of safety equipment that I am always checking the rear view mirror, because you need to keep an eye on what's going on behind you with cars, because a lot of times cars will pull up in front of you and then make a quick turn, right turn, and then you're stuck running into them. And it's just great to keep an eye on them. You can see if they're moving erratically. So I'm constantly checking my mirror, and I like to have a big mirror. As you can see, this one is mounted into the handlebars. Now also on the handlebars I have a light and a horn, and this horn is quite loud, and the light is a combination light and horn. The light and horn isn't as loud. It makes this sound here, and here's the one with the horn. So you can hear the horn is much louder. It's about 140 decibels, and both of them are only about $8 each, but they're great safety equipment, and I constantly use them as well. And then there's the speedometer. And the handlebars, because it's a mountain bike, the handlebars are up higher, so it's a little bit more comfortable. It also helps you to be able to view the street and see what's going on a little bit better than you would if you were on a road bike. So down below you can see another light. Now this light is an LED light, and when it's plugged into an external battery, it really gives a lot of light, and it's very bright. And so I appreciate that at nights. And I'm going to go over here to this table, and there, of course, you have your helmet. There, you need a helmet. I have a light on the back of the helmet as well. Then there's this jacket for nighttime riding particularly, but if you have a chance to put it on during the day, it's also very handy. I have my gloves. You need to have gloves as well. It doesn't matter, really, just any kind of leather type gloves are great. And then this is for your pump, and I like to put this pump in my backpack, and I have a backpack here. So it's great to have your backpack, and you need to keep your hands free at all times on the handlebars. Now this is the external battery I spoke about, and it has a end here that you can plug in a USB. It's very easy to charge. It keeps a long charge, and it also keeps that light super bright, and it's great for nighttime riding. There's a very inexpensive cable lock there. It costs like $1. Having a lock is great. But I always take my bike usually with me wherever I go, and the lock is only for really a situation where I have to park my bike outside, but I can keep an eye on it anyway. These bikes can get stolen really quickly, and the cable lock is very easy to clip, but it's something that will slow somebody down enough, and if you're watching your bike, then you probably won't have a problem. There's a tube also. I usually like to have two brand new tubes. I use a Presti type tube for my tires, and that tube is, I also run the Mr. Tuffy's, which is like a tire liner, so that I don't get many flats, and it makes a big difference using that tire liner. And again, I'm not worried about weight. I'm just doing, I want to have a safe and also a predictable ride. I don't want to have to deal with flats and end up being late for where I'm going. When you're commuting, that's another thing. I'm not quite as fast since I'm not riding a road bike. So I want to make sure that I make up the time by not having any unexpected mechanical issues. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the method of riding when you're commuting. And there's certainly one of the things that I think has kept me safe so far is planning my rides out. And when I first started back to commuting, I commuted for about a year in 1995 when my car was totaled, and I did a whole year and I did a lot of mileage. I rode every single day, I rode at night, I put in quite a few miles, and I rode a road bike at that time. But again, at that time I was in my late 20s, early 30s. I had a lot better reflexes, and at this time I'm in my mid 50s, and I think that the reflexes are not quite as good. So that's another reason that I use a mountain bike when I'm commuting. So if you're somebody above 30, then I highly recommend that you consider commuting on a mountain bike. It just makes a lot more sense. If you're in your 20s and you're in very good shape, and you have your you prefer the speed, then by all means, use your road bike. But anyway, the hands have to be always on the handlebars, in my estimation, and so I use a backpack, and I think that that's the best way to keep my hands free. So anyway, when you're on the road, you always want to prepare your route, especially in the beginning. When you first go back, like I went back to riding, commuting for the last year, and for the first, I would say, 6 months, it's been about probably 2 years now. The first 6 months I planned my rides, and I knew I took all the back roads. I stayed away from as much traffic as I could. I really made it very predictable, and it took me an extra 15-20 minutes a day to do it that way, but I stayed away from the traffic, and I think it was a lot safer. Now that I've been I have a lot of confidence, I feel that I can take some of the more busy routes at certain times. One thing I always do is when I'm riding is, of course, checking my rear view mirror, and then being very courteous with drivers. If I notice a driver is crowding me, if I can get up on the sidewalk for a little while, then I'll do that. If I cut in front of a driver, or for any reason a driver waits for me to cross the intersection or anything like that, I always wave. Always try to remain, keep a really friendly, attitude toward drivers. I've had drivers in the past that have made comments like telling me that I should stay up on the sidewalk all the time, and I just agree with them. However, I must say that riding on the sidewalk is more dangerous. You have people pulling out from driveways that can be very dangerous. You have pedestrians. So when you have a chance, stay away from the sidewalks. If you get pushed onto a sidewalk, if it's a very narrow road, that's fine. Just pay a lot of attention. But in general, stay off the sidewalks and just stay in the gutter. You have to be able to hold a nice straight line when you're riding. So that's another reason to take the back roads until you're able to handle the side of the road, and be able to really hold a nice straight line. I'm going to stop here, and we'll do one more part 3, to conclude this video.